The wagon creaked through the narrow mountain trail, its wheels wobbling like they too hesitated about where they were headed. Inside sat Elsie Wren, hands clasped tight in her lap. Her uncle's words still rang in her ears, "A lame girl is no use to anyone." He'd sold her like a sack of grain. The man waiting at the end of that rocky path was said to be a recluse, Jonas Hale, the mountain man who lived far beyond town where no one went unless they had to. Her uncle said Jonas needed help around his cabin. But Elsie knew better. He needed someone desperate enough to say yes. The trail dipped into a cold, whispering valley of pines. The air was sharp and thin, and somewhere ahead, an axe struck wood. The driver muttered, "There's your new life, miss," and snapped the reins. Elsie climbed down, clutching her shawl. Her right leg trembled, stiff from an old injury that never healed right. She hated the way people stared when she limped. But the man before her didn't stare. Jonas Hale stood broad-shouldered and quiet, his coat dusted with pine needles, his beard rough as bark. "You're the one Wren sent." His voice was low, calm. Elsie nodded. "Yes, sir." "Elsie Wren." "Drop the sir," he said. "Ain't much use for that up here." He studied her a long moment, not her limp but her tired eyes, the spark still fighting to stay lit. Then simply, "You look cold. Let's get you inside." The cabin smelled of cedar and smoke, clean but lonely. A single chair by the hearth, a folded quilt, everything plain and useful. Jonas poured her coffee. "You eat?" She shook her head. "Stool be ready soon," he said. "Till then, rest." It wasn't kindness exactly, but it wasn't cruelty either. She didn't know what this man expected or if she traded one hardship for another. "I can work," she murmured. "Cook, mend, clean. My leg slows me, but I don't stop." Jonas's gaze softened. "Didn't ask you to prove yourself. I just don't want you to think I'm useless." He looked at her then, really looked. "Don't let other folks' words settle into your bones," he said gently. "They're hard to shake once they do." The fire cracked softly. Elsie blinked fast to hide her tears. No one had spoken to her like that in years. That night, after they ate, he showed her the loft. "Roof don't leak much," he said. "If you hear wolves, they won't come near the fire." "Thank you," she whispered. When he was gone, she sat on the bed tracing the quilt stitching, warm for the first time in days. Snow began to fall outside, and she thought of her uncle's smirk when he sold her, "You're lucky he'll take you." She wished she could believe it. Morning came pale and still. Jonas was already splitting wood when she stepped out, shawl tight around her shoulders. "You sleep all right?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. "Good. There's chores if you're up to it, water by the stream, chickens need feeding. I can try." "Trying's all I ever ask." Her limp slowed her, but she never quit. Even when she spilled half the bucket or slipped on ice, she said nothing. By midday her hands were raw, her back aching, but when Jonas told her to rest, she smiled faintly. "If I stop now, I won't start again." "You're stubborn," he said. "So I've been told." That shy smile caught him off guard. He hadn't seen something that gentle in years. That night, wind clawed at the shutters. Jonas mended a latch while Elsie stirred stew. The firelight painted her face in gold and shadow. "Mr. Hale," she asked, "why'd you take me in?" "My uncle said you needed help, but—" He paused. "Truth is, I wasn't sure what I needed. The cabin was too quiet. A man can only talk to his own shadow for so long." She smiled faintly. "Maybe we both needed somewhere to belong." He nodded slowly. "Maybe so." Snow piled high outside, but warmth grew between them. 2 days later, a storm rolled down the mountain, thick and brutal. Jonas watched from the window. That kind of storm swallows travelers whole. Has it always been this lonely up here? She asked. It's not lonely if you stop expecting to hear another voice. That sounds sad. He sighed. Maybe it is. That night, he poured them each a small cup of whiskey. For the chill. She took a sip, coughed hard, and he laughed. Burns a little, he said. That's awful, she gasped, smiling. It's an acquired taste. For a moment, the storm didn't seem so cruel. By dawn the storm had passed. Jonas went to check the fence, warning her not to wander. When he didn't return by sunset, worry drove her into the cold. She found him limping back, blood on his glove. You're bleeding, she whispered. It's nothing. Sit, she ordered, surprising him. Inside, she cleaned and wrapped the wound with trembling hands. You've done this before, he said quietly. My mother taught me, she murmured. When she finished, he flexed his bandaged hand. You're good at this. I've had practice caring for people who don't thank me. He frowned. Then I'll be the first. Thank you, Elsie. She blinked, unsure how to respond. You're welcome. The silence after felt different, softer, closer. Later, he noticed her limping worse. It aches when the cold's deep, she admitted. Did your uncle ever tell you how it happened? She hesitated. He said I fell from the loft. That it was my fault. Jonas's eyes darkened. And do you believe that? I used to. He didn't speak again, just placed another log on the fire. Rest. Tomorrow we'll fetch water together. She smiled faintly. You don't have to. I want to. The next day, as they walked through snow toward the stream, she spoke quietly. I've wondered why my uncle wanted to be rid of me so quick. I keep asking if it was really just because I limp. Jonas's jaw tightened. Men like him don't need reasons to be cruel. At the stream, he broke the ice, and she knelt beside him. How long's it been like this? He asked gently. Since I was 12, she whispered. He was drunk. I tried to stop him from hurting our mule. He pushed me. The bone never healed right. Jonas's grip tightened on the axe. Does he still live in town? She nodded quickly. Please, don't go near him. I just want to forget. You're not broken, Elsie, he said quietly. He just made you believe you were. Her breath caught, and something in her eyes softened. That night, as she stirred soup, Jonas told her how he'd built the cabin after his wife died, how silence had been his only company. Did it make sense again? She asked. He looked at her across the firelight. Not until now. Her cheeks flushed. You shouldn't say things you don't mean. I don't waste words I don't mean. The next morning brought trouble. 2 men rode up the trail, her uncle, Curtis Yarrow, and another with a letter. Curtis sneered. That girl belongs to me. You bought her, didn't you? Changed your mind. I'll take her back. She doesn't belong to anyone, Jonas said evenly. Curtis spat. She's useless. Damaged goods. Jonas's voice dropped. Watch your mouth. The second man handed Jonas a sealed letter. It bore the county seal, an annulment notice. Curtis Yarrow's claim was void. Jonas looked up, fury simmering. You came here lying. Curtis smirked. Paper don't change the truth. She's nothing. Jonas's fist hit him square in the jaw. Curtis hit the snow hard. You come near her again, I'll bury you in this mountain, Jonas said coldly. Curtis scrambled to his horse and fled. Inside, Elsie stood pale by the door. He came for me. Jonas handed her the letter. He can't touch you now. You're free. Her hands trembled. You shouldn't have risked that for me. I didn't risk anything I wasn't willing to lose. Tears filled her eyes, and for the first time, she smiled, small, brave, beautiful. Winter lingered, but neither of them noticed. The cabin filled with warmth and laughter that hadn't lived there in years. Elsie hummed as she worked, Jonas listened quietly, smiling to himself. By spring, the snow melted, and life crept back into the mountains. One morning, Jonas found her walking down the hill steady and sure. "Look at you," he called, grinning. "You're walking better than I do." "Maybe because you still limp when it rains," she teased. He laughed. "Guess we both have old wounds that never quite fade." "Maybe that's all right," she said softly. "Maybe they remind us how far we've come." At sunset they stood on the porch, the sky painted gold. Jonas turned to her. "When you first came here, I thought fate had made a mistake." "And now?" she asked. He smiled. "Now I know it brought you right on time." Her heart swelled. "Then I'm glad I was late." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, his voice low. "No, Elsie. You were right on time for me." And as the last light faded behind the peaks, they stood together, proof that love doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes it limps, but it still finds its way home. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Wild West tales filled with hope, love, and second chances. Tell us in the comments, would you have taken in a woman the world had already given up on?